Say something, I say,
No.
you have to say something, and then I say something.
Yeah.
That's the answer.
Something happened.
That's an old camera joke.
Yeah. Okay, you can go.
Sebastian Sandev just told me he loves this tree because it's so ugly. Well, ugly, sure it is. Now, how in the world does someone want this kind of monster? Now look at how terrible that is. You see all these holes? You see how ridiculous these branches are? Well, the branches will be much better. This is only the beginning of a tree, and the branches we know are not good. But that's a good beginning, and we saw on some other examples what that will look like 5 to 10 years later. Don't worry about the branches. Let's speak about this trunk. As ugly as can be. Well, in Orthodox Japanese bonsai, we are being taught that this is totally impossible because you're not supposed to have any holes or big wounds on broadleaf trees. Okay, so this is only big wounds, and they are even so open that it looks like as even they were exposed on purpose, which exactly they were. So how in the world can somebody have the idea that this is beautiful? Well, it isn't beautiful. It is looking like a very, very old tree that has seen everything, and that does not care about how beautiful it is. He doesn't even know that it's ugly, but it owns the forest. This is the king or queen of the forest, the oldest one, the fattest one. This is a fairy tale bonsai. Now, many of you will have heard the fairy tale bonsai style, and they connected with my name. Thank you very much. We are here in the birthplace of fairy tale bonsai style. 6 years ago, Sebastian Sandev and I sat together over a glass or two of wine, and we spoke about our trees, and we both had noted that our naturalistic trees tend to be more naturalistic the longer we go, and a bit different. Somehow they look very different from what the more wild, more almost grotesque. And Sebastian has a lot of kids everywhere in the world.
Come on.
Okay. and so he knew about fairy tales and about and he would say that he thought that this is a new sort of style, which is the fairy tale bonsai style. Okay. And then he said to me, Walter, I think it's a good term. Please use that, because if I use that, people will laugh. They will not take me for serious. But you, with your name, if you name it fairy tale bonsai style, you can do that. And so I did. So my name is connected with that, but I have never forgotten you. Thank you very much, Sebastian.
Well, you're welcome.
Thank you for your kids. Okay, so what's the fairy tale bonsai style? Well, a fairy tale tree, not a fairy tale tree is one that's in that fairy tale which says Sarah and Peter went into the forest because their mother had told them that she could not feed them anymore. She had to sell them to the gypsies, who would sell them as white slaves to the big farms. Now, white slaves they wouldn't want to be. So they went into the forest, almost nothing to eat with them because they were so poor. And the mother let them go, and they were told that the forest is not for them. It's very dangerous. There are terrible animals in there, and the big trees which can fall over and kill you. However, that was much better than going to slavery. So there they went, and the deeper they went into the forest, the darker it became. And then it sounded like sort of a storm came up, and at one point they were in the middle of the forest, and there was this enormous fat tree. It was frightening, it was terrible, it was ugly. It smelled because the bear was living here, and the big owl up there, and the fox around the corner. and then the big branches. The branches were bigger than other trees, and they had this fear of the branches falling all over them when the storm came. So they went into this tree, into one of these holes, and found shelter right here under this stone. This is where they found shelter, and they started to sleep. And at midnight, the tree woke them up and said, "Children, wake up! I got to introduce you to the forest, to the bear and the wolf and the owl, and to the other trees." So it was clear that he was the master of the forest. Everybody will listen to him or her. I think it was a her, okay? And she was in command of that place. Now, she did not know that...
Like a mother tree.
It's a grandmother tree. Now, she was so old and so wrinkled and so ugly that it was beautiful again. And she did not know that because she has no clue about the outside world. It's not of her interest, and she has certainly no clue what a bonsai is or anything, and she cannot read nor write, but she's quite a character, I tell you. Well, anyway, in the morning the children woke up and found, oh God, the birds are singing, the sun is coming out, and they love this tree. They love this tree so much. And the children would not say that it's ugly, because children don't see ugliness. They saw that it's interesting. And they wanted to stay there, and they didn't want to go away. So this sort of tree, many people can relate to them, because in their childhood they had something like that. And maybe in some parts, at least in my world, actually this kind of tree does grow somewhere close to villages. And this kind of tree we want to mimic. And this tree has nothing to do with orthodox bonsai styling. It's a special kind of tree. And it has everything to do with being grotesque, ugly, being not ideal or anything. Now the question is this okay? I mean, are we not trying in bonsai to make the most beautiful possible tree? Yes, we are.
Maybe not ugly, but just ancient.
Just ancient. Ancient, yes. Ancient
trees are not beautiful.
Well, yeah.
In a way, but in their ugliness maybe.
I got so used to say this that for me ugly is something positive. And grotesque is something positive. Well, it's basically not. Well, anyway, also to try to make the most beautiful possible tree, call it a bonsai. So that many people think bonsai is about creating a small, beautiful tree. Is it? Well, it is basically what we're doing. But if bonsai were an art form, it would not be. First class, first minute of art school, there were a couple hundred new students in there, and the big art professor said, "Art has nothing to do with beauty." Never forget this for the rest of your life. Art has nothing to do with beauty? Most people think that art is only about beauty. No. Art is about impressing you. It's very easy to impress with beauty, and we do that, especially in bonsai, but not necessarily. You can impress with ugliness. You can impress with size. Why is it that some big trees are so impressive? Why is it that we stand in front of some trees and holy cow, whew, like, so this is not because they're so beautiful, but because they're so impressive. Okay, so if you understand that you can impress with big holes just because they're forbidden, they're even bigger than them. Okay, they're offensive, and it's not that you immediately see this tree and love it. No, you have to go around it and like that. But then you look back and but you will never forget this tree. And the tree, the longer you look at it, the more soul it has. This has only soul. That's about what it really has most. It's full of soul. Now, does somebody ever speak about a lot of soul in bonsai? Not, normally not. I do. And this kind of tree that's his nature, to be more soul than normal. Anyway, we have a huge advantage here. If we want this kind of style, we can use some piece of material which normally is unusable. I think 20 years ago, if you told me that this is going to be a good bonsai, I would have broken into laughter, because that was not any acceptable thing at that point in time. Now I think this can be very, not beautiful, but a very, very impressive bonsai. Certainly what we need here is, obviously, we need a much bigger crown, like that. So a fat trunk like this needs a big crown in order to not look too grotesque. So we are modifying that grotesqueness by having a big crown. Certainly very natural, not a round ball, but something like clouds here. Okay, so what Sebastian has started doing in the past 3 or 4 or 5 years, he took the new shoots and wired them, and then cut them back, let them grow, and at the moment it looks kind of silly. Yes, sure it does. But if he continues like that, then in 5 years it will be like this, and will have much more ramification, and it has a nice looking crown. So the trick is, have an ugly, grotesque trunk and have a nice looking crown around it, and that looks kind of cool. So we have a couple of examples in this garden. We showed them before. Some trees that Sebastian had worked on since 5 or 6 years already. Now there you can show the results. Here you just have to believe us. That's a good start for a fairy tale bonsai style. Now you think that this hole is ugly. Okay, you make it uglier. It's not a joke. You actually make holes bigger. You actually don't just try to seal a wound and hope that it will callus over. It will never callus over. You open a wound, you make a big hole in there, so that even if you're looking close, you cannot see where this hole ends. That's what we do with these trees, and they can look quite cool. Here you can see a very small part of that tree where this happened naturally, and Sebastian helped it here artificially. So I do understand that the majority of viewers listening to me say, aha, Walter, but this is so bad. Yes, it does look bad to you because it's not finished. It's in the beginning. Okay, you may look at my websites and at the things that I show, where I have done something like this for a few years and have a sort of finished tree, and then you will understand what we're doing. Now, obviously not everybody will like this. That's fine. We don't do art for everybody to like. That would be commercial. That would be if we want to sell stuff. Okay, then of course you have to do what people like. It's okay, but I think you should respect it. And I think it's in a very good way, and I will hope to come back in 5 years and hold the same sort of speech and show the tree when it has a much better crown. The trunk will not change much, other than this will decay. If you do something like this, do you see that there's no protection on this deadwood? That's on purpose. By design, we want this to not be protected. We want this to decay. It will rot, and then we take a big brush and brush it out, and we can even also take fire with the flame and work it there like we did here, and we leave the color. We don't try to avoid to take off this burnt color. That's the color we want. Okay, Carpinus orientalis collected in Croatia, quite big. Hey, your trees are pretty big. You need a lot of friends.
I have a problem. I have a lot of friends.
Yeah, and they break their back, and then you lose them. So here, another thing is, do you see the rock? This happens because these trees don't grow in normal, nice soil. They grow between rocks, and in between the roots there's often rocks, and we have learned to not take these out, leave them. It's part of the design. Okay, so yeah, I hope you understand me. I hope you will do well in the next years. You will still be the queen of the forest. Good girl.
Queen of the evidence.